Going on vacation. The last thing a lot of us think about is murder. Well, at least, well, maybe some of us. A lot of us do who are watching this show or listening to this show. But most normal people don't necessarily think about murder, but it happens a lot in a lot of disturbing ways in a lot of places that we go on vacation. Also, don't necessarily want us to know about some of the checkered pasts of locations. Here to talk about just that, Slaycations is the host of the new podcast, Slaycation. Jerry Kolber, welcome. Jerry, I'm intrigued. In my world, when I'm on vacation, my family's trying to enjoy the beach. They're trying to enjoy some downtime. We were in Hawaii recently, and I'm like, I think that's the beach where Chad and Lori Daybell had their wedding. Let's go to that one. And my fiance promptly continued driving down the
Yeah,
coastline.
nothing creepy about that,
Nothing
Tony.
weird.
Nothing. Yeah,
Nothing weird at
no.
all. Especially when you're like scoping out spots for your honeymoon or wedding. Like, can we do it? Can we reenact it? I'll get the banjo. You can wear
Yeah,
the
like, let's
dress.
take a stab at it,
Yeah,
right? Like, we'll kill it. It'll be great. It's
exactly.
gonna be great.
Exactly. But obviously, these things happen all over the place where people go on vacation. They go for respite and escape, but not always does that happen. What was your thought process in putting this new podcast together?
Yeah, so my producing partner Adam Davis and I, we've done a bunch of television shows, mostly in the education space. But a few years ago, we were working on a show called Homicide Hunter for Discovery ID with Joe Kenda. We were brought in to help like refresh the show, and going through the cases, we started noticing, yeah, there's a lot of people that get murdered on vacation, and over the last few years, we just keep thinking about it. It was one of those things where like nobody thinks about like going on vacation and getting killed, but it's incredible how many people this happens to, whether it's cruises, spouses, business partners, strangers. It's a very sad and very deep pool of murder. And so we thought, these are really interesting cases to talk about, especially when it's someone who knows the person that they're murdering. What is the thought process of like taking someone on vacation and planning to kill them? Like that's just like, it's already hard enough to plan a vacation,
Yeah.
you know? Like,
Is
so
that what we see a lot of when it comes to vacation? Is it? I mean, obviously in non-vacation life, a lot of homicides. It's somebody that you knew. It's people that others know. I'm assuming that statistic and that trend continues even when one's not in their home turf.
yeah. Yeah, and what appears to be the case with what we call slaycations is, people think it's a good time to kill someone because either they're in a place where they think that they won't get caught, or that the investigation will be lax, or they feel like the person's gonna be relaxed and off, not paying attention, or there's lots of ways to make it look like an accident. Because on vacation, you're kayaking, you're on a cliff, you're hiking, you're hunting, all these things where you could have an accident that could, that could actually be a murder, but made
Yeah.
to look like it.
That's
So,
interesting. Let's
yeah,
talk about that a little bit. Some cases where yeah, maybe you can make it look like something accident hunting. That's a prime example. Oops. Let's talk about
gun
what are some of
accident.
those that you
Yeah,
see that are I
yeah.
guess common amongst people who think they're going to get away with murder.
Yeah, no. In fact, the very first case on Slaycation is a case where a couple went on a hike on their honeymoon, and she ended up falling off a cliff, and it really looked like an accident initially. And as they dig into it, it turns out that not only was it potentially not an accident, but the husband actually had a previous wife who died under mysterious circumstances as well, and they start fighting all these insurance policies. They literally, in this case, they find a map with like an X marked on the spot on the cliff in his car. So it was all premeditated,
Hmm.
but he really made it look like an accident. And then the details of like he's got another woman lined up. Like this guy's essentially marrying women with the purpose of murdering them for insurance money. So this guy was just a really evil guy. In some cases, it's more of a one-off thing. Someone, it's a crime of passion. Someone
Mhm.
just gets caught up in a moment and ends up killing their spouse. Um, and then there's a lot of cases of people who go on vacation and disappear or get murdered. To your point you made in the intro, a lot of these places where these things happen don't want it to be publicized. The authorities, the police, the local officials all like to keep these things quiet. So we're not doing the show to tell you not to travel to certain places, and we actually do we focus we focus a lot more than other true crime shows do on the victims, because we see in these cases there's a lot of red flags and a lot of actually good takeaway in some of these cases for things to look out for in terms of abusive relationships. But in the end, it's just like this just deep well of just crazy stories of murder on vacation.
When we're talking about locations that don't want to be known for death, what are some that stand out to you? Let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, off the top of my head, Disney comes to mind. I know. I mean, there's rumors that are not all true about Disney, where like, oh, if someone dies, they pull them off property, so it's not technically. I know that a lot of that has been debunked, and I don't know that Disney is a huge one for murder. But what are some of the locations, and maybe not even necessarily the names of the parks or whatnot, but the styles or the types of vacations where people
Yeah,
tend to have
yeah.
this happen?
Well, outdoorsy stuff is a big one. Anything where there is the potential for falling off a cliff or a kayak, sinking. Those are sort of prime slaycations. There was a point during the research for the show where we said we could just instead call the show "Don't Go to Mexico." Uh, so not to give away the giant landmass to the south of us where a lot of these happen, but and it's not and to be clear, actually, we make this point in the show. Americans stand a much higher risk of being shot and killed here in the States than they do on vacation in Mexico. That is a
Okay.
fact.
Yeah.
But the number of cases that happen in Mexico, because it is our closest neighbor where people tend to vacation, and there is this myth that you can go to Mexico and get away with stuff. It's not the case. You probably will get caught. It might take a little longer, might be a little more difficult, but Mexico is not the crime free for all that people seem to think it is. If it was, we wouldn't be telling all these stories
Yeah.
about people
Well,
killing people in Mexico.
and when you're talking specifically about the Mexican angle of it, of being there, and obviously we hear stories of cartel crimes, and kind of when you go off the beaten path a little bit, if you're an American tourist, you always hear stay on the property, stay at the resort, do not go off, don't go to places you don't know. Are we talking about cartel type murders that are focused on here, or are we talking more about a honeymooning couple that truly hate each other,
Yeah.
that somehow the parasail goes awry?
Yeah, unfortunately, all of the above.
Yeah.
I mean, did a case about Jose Malicio and his fiance, who they were dual citizens who went down to celebrate Christmas, and they ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time, is what it looks like. There was some cartel checkpoint and mistaken identity, wrong place, wrong time, and it's an unsolved case.
Yeah.
Another one in Mexico, which was in the news a lot last year. You may have talked about was Shankella Robinson,
Hmm.
who was in Cabo with some friends. She went down with her friends from Georgia to a resort in Cabo, and she was found dead by housekeeping staff in the hotel room. And the circumstances are very mysterious. The coroner's report does not quite jibe with what was later reported and the photographs from the scene. So we actually, in that case, as we do on many of these cases, we actually sort of reopen it. We look at it analytically and say, like, okay, beyond the headlines, what actually happened here?
Yeah.
Who benefited? Who got away? Why did this happen? What are the facts? And in some cases, we're able to uncover new information. In some cases, we ask our audience to help solve the slaycation. But we do like to take a fresh look at some of these that
Yeah.
just don't add up.
How difficult is it? More difficult for law enforcement to kind of get to the bottom of some of these cases when it is a vacation someone's on versus their typical routine that one may be going through. It's like, here's the people you see every day, here's where you're expected. In vacation, everything's kind of up in the air. You're interacting with people left and right that you'll probably never interact with again for the rest of your life. So I would assume that it makes it a little more difficult sometimes to put all those random pieces together to solve a crime or a murder.
It depends, Tony. Like if it's in a foreign country or a very remote place, that's absolutely true because you don't have the routine. Sometimes people aren't reported missing for a while. Oh, they're on vacation.
Hmm.
You know. But the thing we've noticed a lot of these cases when you commit a slaycation in a place like Las Vegas or Ocean Shore, any of like the resort towns on the East Coast or New Orleans, there are so many cameras everywhere
Hmm.
that in some ways it's almost easier to like they can actually piece together where people were, who they were with, where they pull security cameras from like city-owned cameras, private cameras. So that's one thing that's been interesting is like the more heavily touristed, particularly in America,
Hmm.
the more likely and easier it is for the police to put it together. In fact, in one case that was just very sad, the people that got murdered, it was really unbelievably tragic. The couple who killed them were caught burglarizing a Hooters restaurant because they wanted to steal Hooters merchandise. I mean, it's a crazy case, but they were caught based on security cameras and then this burglary, and they were able to piece it together very quickly.
Wow. Good decision making, I guess,
Yeah, kill people and then go rob a
go
Hooters.
rob Hooters. Hey, it's Tony Brueski. If you like the podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, and press that bell so you don't miss any of our updates on the cases we're following for you right here at the Hidden Killers podcast from True Crime Today. And thanks